Welcome to Shit Chat with Em and Matt.
This is episode 8, guys.
We have made it to episode 8. I'm proud of ourselves.
I'm proud of us too.
I say that every time because each episode's progression for us and we'll take it.
And we've also got a lot of really good feedback around our podcast. So thanks for that, and thanks to Jordan for doing this because...
He makes this happen.
Yeah.
Keeps us accountable. And also, thanks to those tagging us on stories, sharing the podcast. That means the world. We see you guys.
Yeah. So this time we are talking about mindset, and for the reason that we have just had a lot of it coming up, and usually it comes up mid-year. Maybe it's the colder weather, maybe people are feeling less quote-unquote motivated, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to touch on a winner's mindset, a loser's mindset, how to get out of ruts, my own experience with depression and how I moved forward from there, and also the creation of better habits. So this will be a really nice jam-packed one.
Nice.
And if you guys have any questions for us or want us to cover anything particular in podcast, please make sure that you are looking at our stories, because I will put up question boxes along the way, and that allows us to curate this to better suit our audience. But we think this is going to go really well today.
Yeah, I think I might even cut in here and start with an update of where we're at, because this ties into mindset well and truly. So this week alone, let alone the 3 months, we've been renovating a house, and most people following us know that. It's stressful. Anyone that does it, we did put everything in place to make it less stressful, because running our business and doing what we do and bodybuilding on top of it is a fuckload of work as it is, let alone that. So grateful for the people around us who has made that much smoother. But recently in the last, we got to get it all done this weekend. It's been a shit fight, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
We've had trades do a shit job, trades like just misquote, we've got $8,000 more we had to spend on a fence that we shouldn't have. We've had pool issues that shouldn't be an issue, that spent $10,000 on resurfacing the pool. So finances, straight away, that can cause a lot of stress on people, especially when you spend a lot of money and at the end of the renovations, it's a real kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
On top of that, we've been going back and forth over the house all the time. We're trying to run the business, trying to do what we need to do, our work, what we love, launch the challenge, and we're both in push phases, which, you know, we can't miss a beat when we're in our push phases, and we try not to. Then on top of that, our poor daughter has been sick for the last 2 weeks. Got this cough, so we have not been sleeping much at night, maybe 2 or 3 hours, because poor girl's coughing a hole up the whole night.
And big shout out to Poppy, who came down from Sunshine Coast.
That's what I was just going to say.
So
we haven't got family around us or anyone to help.
Yeah.
So we've had her home from, and all the parents will relate to this, they're going to know. We've had her home from daycare on top of everything we've had to do this week. Here sick, carrying her around to meetings at the house, trying to sort all these issues that we both split, going to different meetings, trying to do something. We tag team, taking around, and it just adds a lot of stress. And it's been so easy for us just to be like, I give up. Like I could be like, oh, I've had it. Like I've been at my breaking point this week, going, I'm fucking so over this. And the training is just a hassle. Bodybuilding's a hassle for me at the moment. And I'm like, I've got to go train. On top of all this shit, whether it's tonight, first thing in the morning, you're trying to move around, try and get home in between clients, eating meals, rushing it, scoffing it down. And I pull myself up going, you're being tested right now. It's all right. Here's a test. How are you going to deal with it? So it's like, I could easily go, fuck training. I'm not doing the bodybuilding this week. But then I pull myself up and I got my personal goals of bodybuilding. How is that going to help in the next 6 months of what I want to achieve? So I'm like, regardless of what happens today, just get your session done. May not be the best, you may not be in the best mood, you may be tired, sleep's off, just get it done, do your best. And that's what I've been doing. This whole week is just dragging my ass around going, just do your best. Win the day, get through the day. And it would be so easy, because it has crossed my mind where I'm like, I don't care about this meal. Who cares? It's a couple of weeks. But in the grand reality, I've been doing this, in the grand scheme of things, I've been doing this for so long, I know it does count if I'm missing meals. One meal mightn't break the bank, but if I continue that habit over the last 3 weeks or the next 2 weeks, or we're packing this house up this weekend and moving next week, it will cost me down the track. So that's where I'm aware of it, where I'm pulling myself up going, you can do better. This may not be your best at the moment. Certainly isn't my best at the moment, but I am trying to juggle a lot.
But you are consistent, and I think that's the main thing. Is like,
I'm sure you've felt that this week as well. We're like,
I'm going to say this. The difference between you and I is that I tend to have more of a positive spin on things, because you are sometimes a little bit negative Nancy, especially this week with a lot of stuff in
Who's
your plate.
spending all the money?
So therefore, I have to have the.
Who's taking care of all the
I'm
house
just
stuff?
saying, like, both of us can't be negative, so I have to hold things a little bit higher in terms of vibrations.
My shoes.
Exactly. So Matt obviously is spending a lot more on the house of his own money, so that is a big.
All the money. Emily would be like, "Yeah, replace it. Yeah, get some more. Oh, we're bankrupt. Okay." That's how she rolls. Well, we better sort that out. That's what she'll do. So you can't. There's more stress, but then it doesn't mean Emily hasn't had her own stress. So.
Yeah, no. But I have notoriously always tried to be more positive until I can't be positive, and then obviously I have shit days. But and this is like ties into the first question or statement is like, what makes a winner's mentality? And it really comes down to the ability to adapt and the ability to stay optimistic. And also the ability to reflect on, hey, this isn't great, but what's better is doing something than nothing, right? And I think that's what you've done this week is like, although it may not be perfect, you've still done something. And a lot of people make the mistake of, if it's not perfect, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's a really shitty way to look at anything.
I feel
nothing's
that.
Perfect.
I 100% agree. And sometimes this last month, it's been a chaotic month.
Yeah.
In amongst a bit of trouble, which was great. I have had that feeling being like, you know what, it's not perfect, you know, my sessions are not warming up, I'm not even getting time to do activation work, you know, I've missed a couple cardio sessions, and when I don't tick the boxes, it really fucks with my head, because that's why I've been, a perfectionist, whatever you want to call it, that's why I'm successful, because I hold myself accountable at a high level, and that's where that mentality does come in, like, you are not doing it 100%, you might as well not do it, and that's where I've had to pull myself up with my education going, that's not how it works.
But it's good to know.
You're doing what you can to
it's
keep
good to know that you have that side of you as well, because a lot of our clients and a lot of people do have that more like all or nothing mentality. I think when I met you, you probably had more of it than you did then. Because I remember very specific moments when you were like beating yourself up so hard, and I was just like, why? Like, why bother sitting in this shitty mindset? Like, let's just do something. And I think
I'd have the bar set for myself so high.
But it was also,
it can be where you can be like, hey, that's why you're successful, but also detrimental, like Emily said.
So the winner's mentality, like I said, adapting, being able to reflect on like...
Which is what we've had to do this week. Adapt.
All of the things. Consistency, not perfection, because perfection can be self-sabotaging if it's like an all or nothing mentality. And I guess a good question for you is like, how did you combat more of that all or nothing mentality?
Through you, breaking it down, being realistic is what it was. Like, okay, look at how, and you need someone, like, unless you're really self-reflective, which most people aren't, Emily would be like, right, I understand that you want to be elite. This is where you're at. This is where the normal population is. And, you know, you can continue being in this stress state, beating yourself up, and then expecting, if we're talking about bodybuilding, stress is not greatest. Obviously, you'll have stress, but chronic stress, no. Yeah. So you can be chronically stressed over all these things that you can't control sometimes. A lot of it we can control, but there are things that you can't. So she's like, control the controllables. Control what you can, you know, and then outside of that, just be, well, she used to say, flow like water, Matt, be adaptive. And it was like me being put in my place, looking at myself, like doing some, like looking at what I'm doing, going, you know what, she's right. And until someone puts you in that position and start breaking you down, you're like, I could be better, you know. Imagine if you were less stressed, how your body's going to respond. You know, yes, that's not a perfect day, but look at the overall week. How was the week? And I'm like, that Tuesday was pretty subpar, but the rest of the week was bang
pretty
on.
good.
You know, it's pretty good. So that's momentum. Let's build on that next week.
I think one of the most detrimental traits that I think that you had at the beginning was more of the, and you still have it sometimes, is the beating yourself up for things that have passed already, instead of just like being like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, let's deal with it the best. I think that's a really important characteristic to work on, instead of being like, oh my god, this happened, my week's shit, my car broke, all these things that, they do impact you. Rather, it's a better opportunity to be like, this is what I'm dealing with now, how do I deal with that the best that I can? And I think that's a good reminder for everyone. It's like, instead of beating yourself up for things that have happened or things in the past, let's look at what we're doing moving forward, because that is the only thing that really matters, right?
But it's also important to look back on what you've done. If you've made mistakes, why did you make that mistake?
Yeah, to reflect.
Exactly, because otherwise you're going to continue to make them mistakes. So not beat yourself up for the weeks.
I'm probably a little bit too...
But you definitely have to be, like, what do we say? Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That didn't work, that's why it worked. What can I do to prevent that next time? Probably be a little bit more organised here, and here. Get out of bed earlier.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll get so banked up with work and it's like, oh my God, and then it's like, okay, sit back. What is the priority for today? Not everything's going to get achieved today. So write that down. That gets my attention and priority today. And then that'll go on tomorrow's list. And then keep moving forward that way.
I think people don't realize, like, I read this somewhere, I listened to it somewhere.
Or get out of bed earlier.
That, like, entrepreneurs or business owners deal with a higher level of stress better than the general population person. And that's why they're successful. So if you're running a business or if you're, like, whatever, understand that comes with a higher level of stress rather than like this kind of freedom that everyone talks about. Like they're like, well, you're an online coach, you can go to the beach during the day, or you can, have all day long to do whatever you like, and that's not the truth. So like, if you are in that position of owning your own business or doing your own thing, understand that you have to deal appropriately with a higher level of stress. And I think that's what we have realized, especially lately, is like, we thought our life was chaotic for a good period of time, and I was also like, when is life going to get less busier? But ultimately, we just had to deal and manage with that higher level of stress, and now it's like, it's okay. Like
we definitely make it worse than ourselves, but like
chaotic is okay.
We make it work as well.
Yeah.
So I think I whinge about it sometimes, and everyone around us, our family, our friends, be like, if you guys weren't that busy, you wouldn't know what to do with yourselves.
Yes,
I look back and I'm like, probably I would find another way to make ourselves busier.
That's why I said I laugh when Matt's like, oh, this stuff will be over and we'll be so much chill. I was like, you'll find something else to worry about after the house is done.
I'll buy another house. Sounds stupid.
So, like, okay, looking at some of your most successful clients in terms of what they're achieving with their health and fitness goals, what do you think makes them successful?
Yeah, that mindset that we develop over time, that I've taught from my mistakes and making them better than what I am ultimately, is just saying that 100% nothing attitude needs to go from the get-go. That like chasing perfection, because a lot of people attach perfection to achieving these amazing results, when that's a lot of the time what brings us undone. And we can break that mindset, and you start feeling like a failure because you didn't tick the 10 boxes that you had down, you only ticked 8. But in reality, them 8 boxes are more than the 0 boxes you were ticking before you started. So,
and the 8 may be more sustainable for you. The 10 may not be something that you can actually maintain for a long period of time.
Them clients also, when they come to me, it's almost like you'll back me on this. When a client joins our team and we go through the onboarding process and we're building that relationship with them, because I've just been coaching our coaches this week about this. Each client is going to be coached different. I find what makes that client tick, what approach is going to work for this client. Some like tough love, some need their hand held a little bit more than others and getting pats on the back, congratulated all the time. And that works really well. So it's important that coaches out there understand this as well, because it's what we've been teaching our coaches more of, making sure they understand that. But when they come, the most successful ones all have this trait of like, I'm prepared to make change. A lot of people come on going, I want to look like this is my goal. And they're like, but I'm not willing to be uncomfortable and work for it. Oh, what do you mean I've got to do this every day? What do you mean I'm going to have friends and family, peer pressure me to go out and drink and call me like obsessive and all that? Because this is all the pressures you will. In reality, you'll get them from your loved ones and your friends when you're trying to better yourself. So you need to be in a position to be uncomfortable and like, hey, no, I know it seems a little bit obsessive to you, but it's not. It's a goal for me right now, and this is what's required for me to achieve that goal.
Usually the people, I'm going to say this is a blanket statement, but the ones with the biggest goals are the ones that are most unwilling to change their behaviors. Like they'll be like, I want to lose 25 kilos. And then you're like, okay, well, here's a meal plan. And they're like, I don't eat that. No, I can't eat that. I'm really a fussy eater, and then it's just this barrage of excuses, and then from like pretty much...
I don't have time to do
I don't have time to prep. It's too hard.
Like there'll be all these excuses start unfolding straight from the get-go, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah. Like
this person, where the other mindset of the other's like, okay, they'll explain their day, and they'll be like, it may be a little bit challenging, but I'm going to try. Yeah. And that's the one I'm like, you're going to try. That's the attitude I want.
That's the attitude.
They understand, hey, this is going to be a little bit difficult, especially in the beginning, because everything is when you first make them big changes. But they're like, hey, I'm going to give it a crack. I'm like, that's the fucking attitude.
Imagine you go to Dean I can't do this, or I can't do this. He'll be like, oh, get the fuck off my team then.
Now, Dean's good. So Dean would be like, he would be thinking that. But Dean would be like, okay. And this is Dean, I know, and we have a great relationship. He would be like, right, tell me your day. And he would pull my bullshit. Write down your day. What time do you wake up? Righto, tell me the tasks of the day. What do you got on your plate? When's Luna going? When are you training? Check-ins, marketing calls, whatever. He'll break it all down and be like, right, in between that 10 and 11 o'clock spot, why can't you go for a 20-minute walk?
Yeah.
And that's how he rolls. There's no attitude towards it. He'll just break it down and be like, straight away as a client, you're like, fuck, he's got me there. Yeah, you're right.
True.
Could you not be a little bit more organised and do a click and connect? Click and collect.
Yeah.
He would find ways, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I could do that. And he's like, well, you just save yourself time right there on a Wednesday when you go shopping.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is attitude and language, and that's how we kind of pick who's who from the start. And obviously, it is our obligation as coaches to try and coach that person to be like, okay, instead of using the words "I can't," think of I will try.
Where there is what's the old saying? Where there is a will, there is a way. Yeah. But you have to be willing to try.
Yeah.
Putting yourself, being okay with being uncomfortable, being okay with that bit of anxiety around the change that's about to happen, because in reality, we say this all the time, you can't keep doing the same shit and expect a different result. Something has to change. And the beginning is the most uncomfortable time because everything's new, it's overwhelming, and you're trying to, make all these changes, but in reality, it's just hey, it's not going to be perfect. Detach from that and be like, I'm just going to make a start. You know what? That one step I've just taken from where I was is a step forward in the right direction. Then I'm going to build on that. Then I'm going to build on that. Then I'm going to build on that.
And I'm going to say there's nothing more satisfying as a coach than being able to see that change in someone from that I can't mentality to I will try mentality. Does it happen all the time? I'm going to say probably 30% of people that I find that starts with that I can't mentality change, but a lot of them do not. No. And that's something that they carry with them all the time, and it stops them from being their ultimate self.
I've tried.
And that fucking sucks.
I've tried so much from these particular clients.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm a great coach. I know this. I know how I'm going to make this work. And it's such a kick in the ass or kick in the nuts if you're a guy, because that hurts. It sucks. Makes you feel sick. That when they just don't change. And you're like, I've literally given you everything, so much more of my time than what is necessary, to help you, and you just won't help yourself.
But there's also a saying of this: you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. And
unfortunately, and that's so real for a lot of people out there.
So, what makes a loser's mentality is that inability to see the fact that they're standing in their own way.
When they blame everyone else or everything else around them, their circumstance, environment, their boyfriend, their girl, their kids, instead of being like, hey, I'm responsible. I can do this, and that's hard. A lot for every human to be take responsibility, because it's so easy to place blame on others. We all do it. But it's okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not the victim here I'm making out I am. Maybe
but do you know what? There's some, as I say, I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Alex Mosi or something.
Yeah.
Probably, most likely. And even if something's not your fault, to take responsibility of it allows you to take that power back to create change. And so, even if you're I'm
just going to interrupt, because that's where Emily's why are you beating yourself up something goes wrong? She's like, that was so-and-so's fault. I'm like, no, next time I'm not going to put trust in something. I saw the red flag, so that's where I bring it in. She's like, let it go. But yes, that's why. Carry on.
So even if you're okay, an example of this is Luna's sick, I can't get to the gym. That's obviously not my fault that my daughter is unwell. I could easily say, Luna is unwell, I can't make it to the gym. But instead, I take responsibility of that circumstance and I go, Luna is sick, I'm going to find a way to get to the gym. So I call my mum. I call my dad from Sunshine Coast to come down to look after her. Yeah. Therefore, I've taken power over that situation to create that outcome that I want. A lot of people will stop at, Luna is sick, I can't do this, and that's it.
That is literally what has happened. I don't think we spoke about that. So we've had 2 weeks of not a lot of sleep. Yeah. Not Luna's fault at all. It is what it is. And last night, Em's which was probably one of our worst nights last night, Em's Dad, 2.5 hours he's on the Sunshine Coast. We got a lot on tomorrow. We got no one else. You can't send her to daycare. Is there a possibility you could come down? He was just yep, I'll be there in the morning. He was at our front door at 6:45 this morning.
Yeah.
So thank God for that.
And do you know, like, the alternative of that, if he didn't say yes, I probably would have called my friend Liz, and then I would have exhausted all other opportunities, and I would have called a babysitter. Like,
or we would have been doing this podcast right now with Luna in the bedroom, either coughing in the background, because I said if the reality is if she's coughing in the background, that's all we can do, or in our bedroom trying to watch some TV where you'd probably still hear it.
But I think it's like, for our listeners, like, this is a exercise that you can use every day. Like, take radical responsibility for absolutely everything to create the change that you want. Because I think powerful people do that. And I think that's sometimes like a really good thing to just remind yourself of is like, yeah, shit goes wrong all of the time, but how can I change this to create the outcome that I want? And it's
thinking you're going to have a perfect run, like, oh geez, the dreams are... I dream of that.
We never
have this perfect run and no one's going to interrupt. There's going to be no hassles in the
Oh my God,
business.
can I relate this to you?
Yeah, like I think about that all the time. Like, oh, imagine that. And then I'm like, this is the real world. That shit don't happen.
No.
I might get a couple magical days together where
I'm going to relate this to
like...
you. Sometimes you sit there and you get cranky and you're like, this person's messaged me and I can't stay on task and I wish they could just not message me. Like,
no,
and I'm like,
I got peppered. So
like,
tell the whole story.
Turn your phone on airplane mode. That's how we take responsibility of that situation, right?
Yes, listen.
You are correct.
You are correct. But in my circumstances, to my defense, the builder and these caught on the phone.
Before that, remember it used to be like, I can't even like sit here and do my check-ins without someone messaging me. I was like,
it's usually because I've been peppered.
Well, turn your phone off, mate.
But well, sometimes I have a thing as well. People message me. I like to get that address straight away or that email, so I'm like, I can continue moving forward. Or in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're waiting on a decision, which is delaying everything around them. So out of respect, I'm like, there's the answer. The quicker I can make decisions, the better life is.
Yeah, look. All right. So that really is what makes a loser's mindset, is blaming, excuses, passing blame, closed mind.
Not willing to try.
And there are so many people out there, and I really feel sorry for them because they're not exploring how potentially amazing that they possibly could be.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, so next question was how to get out of a rut. Matt, how to get out of a rut?
I've been in a rut in the last 3 weeks. If you can't tell, I broke that rut over in New Zealand for 5 days. That was amazing with my family. Come back and it was just a shit fight because we walked straight back into like a lot of issues, launching a challenge. But look, we're here. So I'm in a rut. I feel like I'm in a rut, but each day I just keep saying what I keep telling myself. I'm like, just get through today. Just get through this week. So I know just 1 foot in front of the other. And I like I said earlier, I'm not caught up on trying to perfect each day. I know there's probably going to be a couple boxes half-assed ticked or maybe not ticked, and I'm okay with that because I'm ticking the ones that I can. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, this is a good one. My client Kylie actually, she messaged me and she was like, I just can't have like a smooth run for this build. Like every few weeks I get sick or something happens with the kids and I feel like I haven't given it like 100%. And I said, that the reality of any phase is that you're never going to give something 100%. You try, but even if you fall at like 80 or 90%, that is actually good enough. Because and I related it back to what we've been going through this week. And she was like, fuck, well, I didn't know that other people also struggle with this. So it is good to be able to talk to someone about the normal human experiences and to know that that's also okay. Because I said like last build, I was consistently injured and I was just having to move around it. So like you're never going to really get like the perfect run. It's just about giving that as the best opportunity that you can and giving it as much as you have on that day.
Yeah, it's you have to. People don't talk about it enough because people are like, oh shit, I'm not alone. Oh shit, Matt, look at Matt. He's been really struggling the last 3 weeks, but he keeps showing up. He keeps doing what he can, and it's the effort. Like I'm on the things that I can do. I'm putting my effort into it because that makes me feel good. Like it would be different if I was half-assing everything. I wouldn't be happy with that. If I'm doing something, I'm giving it my whole attention and put my effort in and accepting that I can't do the other bits where I can't control at the moment.
And I think also a really good tip for this is like getting out of a rut is understanding that it's not like you want to get rid of that, I need to be doing all of these things. Give yourself like 3 things to do on a daily basis. So like training 3 days a week. Daily steps is really good for your mindset, your mental health, and your physical health, obviously, and then looking at, okay, what am I actually feeding myself? So I think giving yourself some small tasks to do to get out of that hole that you may be in is really important, just to keep you ticking along, rather than being like, oh, I'm gonna start a challenge. I'm gonna do 7 days of work, 7 days of training. I'm also gonna read. Like, stop giving yourself so many things to tick off. Like, give yourself just a few things so that you feel accomplished in doing those things.
Which is big.
Yeah.
I think it is a great question. This is one of our clients asked: is how to pull yourself out of a rut or break a rut.
Yeah.
It is very hard. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you snap your fingers and you're just like,
you're good.
Like, there are clients who have had, you know, one, being sick, and they're like, I've just lost, and say for 2 weeks being sick, which is really happening at the moment, that everyone seems to have influenza A or whatever's going around. Yeah. A lot of our clients, and it's lasting a lot longer than a week, 2 weeks, and they're like, mentally, they're like, I've really lost my momentum here. I'm like, yep. And a lot of our clients, I don't expect them to train when they're sick at all. It's pointless. So we give them little goals to focus on away from the gym and what they need to be doing to recover. So then again, they have got some feeling of accomplishment, and then it's like, again, setting the bar low, like Em said. Okay, this week now you've come off the back of being sick 2 weeks. These are the big 3 things I want you to tick and focus on, and then we build on that again to get that momentum. Once that momentum starts, we're on a run, but it's just trying to build that momentum from a dead stop. Yeah. Can be very difficult. And then for those who overeat, which happens, you know, we've all been there, and you're like, oh, I fucked it now. And that's where Emily's like, people go, I'm going to train 7 days this week to make up for it, 2 hours of cardio, which is the worst.
Overcompensate for my
Exactly. You just have to be like, hey, I made a mistake. Why? And that's why having a coach, like, we talk and explore why. Oh, so stressed. Had a huge fight with my boyfriend or my girl partner. Could be financial reasons, and I just went, fuck it, no, which a lot of people do. YOLO, eat everything all weekend, try and chase that dopamine hit to make ourselves feel better, and then it makes it so much worse because then we feel like we're a failure. Yeah. You know, you're inflamed, scale weight's gone up for that short amount of time, overeating, and then to try and break that's even more difficult. So it's just like, no, why did it happen? Okay, what are we going to do moving forward when we have that feeling? We're going to put something in place. Are you going to message me, the coach? Are you going to talk to your partner? Are you going to have, if you've got people around you, be like, hey, what did I feel like? And I think that's the big one. It's like, it made me feel good temporarily while I was eating that food, but for the next week, the next 3 days after, I felt absolute shit in so many ways. So it's like remembering that feeling, be like, oh, the future me isn't going to be feeling too good about this decision, you know? And yeah, it's still easy sometimes to be like, I don't care, man. But you really have to sit on, like, when you make that mistake a few times, you're like, oh yeah, is it worth it? That feeling was pretty shit. Oh, the disappointment I've got it one for myself, but also tell my coach about it. So it's awareness is huge around that. And then again, breaking that sort of a rut, it's just like, all right, it's happened. You know, now it's just starting that momentum again, which can be difficult. But if you've got the right people around you, like a coach, it's so much easier.
And this is probably relates to like my reverse and like the constant small eating overs that I was doing that became a habit. Like, how did I break out of that? It's like I was just...
Have you?
Yeah. I was just getting like and this actually relates to some of my clients that are going through the same thing in that reverse phase or the recovery phase is just getting good days under the belt. And I think that's like a good thing to just consider. It's 1 day at a time. If we can make it a habit of staying within calories, that becomes something that you continuously do. Rather than...
I remember it was like 2 weeks ago and it's like, babe, you should be proud of me. I haven't eaten over in the last 3 days. And like when Emily's, again, to put it in context, Emily eating over would be like some extra fruit, like 100 calories, 200 calories more. Yeah. But over every day, if that's happening over a week, can add up. You know, and it's difficult post-comp because you're trying to deal with all that, the appetite dysregulation. And she's like, I've done 3 days, babe. I'm like, I am proud of you, but I'm like, you should be more proud of yourself. And like, it's good effort. But it's again, she was like, putting it out there, like, pat on the back.
Under the belt.
I feel good. This is what it feels like when I'm right on back on track.
So yeah, getting out of the rut is just about understanding that we need to look at, 1, why we're in there in the first place, how can we avoid that in the future, 2, setting realistic goals for getting out of there, like just daily steps is a probably good one to start off with because it's the easiest and lowest hanging fruit, and then looking at good quality food and then looking at training on top of that, and then just doing that. Stop trying to give yourselves too many things to do. I know like the millennial thing, is that even the age group? Is that the younger? Is to do like, yoga, meditation, read the book, do the sauna, and they're giving themselves so many tick lists, and that's why they're failing all the time or have this feeling of failure, because they're not doing all these things that are just completely unnecessary for them to move forward. I thought I would also, someone asked about my own experience with depression and how I managed to move forward from that point in time. And this was before Matt, probably just as I'd met him before that. But I was living in Townsville. It was 2016, I do believe. 2017 when I moved here. And I'd just come out of a really shitty relationship. I was in a breakup phase. I was transitioning from nursing to full-time PT. I was working myself into the ground. I was doing ridiculous hours as a PT. I had very little, foresight for what the fuck I was doing for my life. I was just PTing. I didn't really have a goal. I was stuck in Townsville.
Lacking direction.
And I wasn't surrounded by the most amazing people. I was surrounded by a lot of toxic people at the time. And that was my fault for choosing that group of people, but it was a really shitty time in my life. And I remember binge eating every night, going to sleep wishing that I probably wouldn't wake up in the morning. Just had no drive whatsoever. And it was really fucking tough. And I didn't tell anyone because I'm one of those really proud people that I was like, I don't want to be seen as failing at life, because I put out there that I'm just so positive and resilient and strong. And I was like, this is not me. And it was so out of alignment. And I didn't even tell my family at the time either, because I hate worrying them with these types of things. And this probably went on for like good 6 months. And how I moved forward was I just, one day, and it was like a moment that I was literally waiting for someone to save me. Like every day, I was like, someone's just going to come through that door and it's going to be perfect. And
but I think
this person's going to come into my life and they're going to make everything good. And I had relationships at the time, like friends, and I was like relying so heavily on them to make me feel better all the time. And it was so shit and so draining. And it was one day I was listening to Tony Robbins, because at the time I was just drowning myself in like positive fucking podcasts to try and reap something out of it. And I was like, it's me. It's me that has to save me. And that was like
no one's coming.
And that was like a big like light bulb moment. And I was like, fuck. And it was totally empowering, but also so soul destroying at the same time, because I was like, I got a lot of work to do. I got so much work to do. And from that point, I moved towns. I moved down to Gold Coast. I started actually actively engaging in like self-development, not just listening to it and hoping that it like sunk in. And it was all of these little things. I went and saw a psychologist, but it was all these active things. And I think a lot of people don't actively do anything to try and help themselves. They're just waiting for someone to save them, but that person is you.
Yeah, okay, and I think everyone experiences that, alone, because I've had a couple of friends in a similar, in a hole, in a real bad spot, and you do what you can to try and help them, but at the end of the day, it's never enough, and you like, as a friend or a loved one, you're like, the only person that's going to pull you out there is you. And I've watched, thank God, Emily's one, but a couple of my close mates have had to do it, and that's exactly what they said. There was just one day as a light bulb moment, they're like, fuck, no one's coming. No, just hoping their circumstances are going to change. They're like, all right, and then you're in this huge deep hole, and you're like, I've got to start, and there's only one way to get out of that hole. It's one step, one crawl at a time. So, and eventually, it again compounds over time, one foot in front of the other, and things start improving.
And I don't think it's that like depression is not something that you just like beat and it's gone. It's like waiting at the back door for you all the time. And I think you have to actively do things that help you, like getting out of bed, on your alarm, going for a walk, filling your cup up, like all these things that just add to why, like, they help you get out of that hole. Because it's so easy to slip back into it, especially if you have like lack of direction, or maybe you're not in the greatest environment, but like you have to actively do the things to make your life better. Understanding that you're not going to be happy all the time, that's completely okay.
Yeah,
but
that's life.
We listened to a podcast about happiness, and it was essentially like, what was it? Direction in life is a huge one.
Yeah.
So knowing what you're doing, why you're doing it. Purpose is a really big one. And I think looking at that...
You've got to ask these questions because some people are like, oh, how do I know my why? Like, what questions someone recently asked, what questions can I ask myself to understand my why? I'm like, you just got to keep asking questions, so I can't help you understand your why. And like, unless I ask like you can, but ultimately you have to do it. Like why are you doing this? There has to be a really deep, for you to want to stick to all the challenging parts that's going to come with it. It's got to be a deep, meaningful reason why you're trying to achieve that specific goal. It doesn't have to be like fitness related and healthy fitness related. It could be anything. There's got to be this meaning. So when them tough times come for you, which they will, then really challenging times, you lean into that why. This is why I'm doing it. Remember, this is what I set out to do. This is how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And then you lean on that to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. So yeah, I think understanding that there are things that you should do for yourself on a daily basis that really improve your mental health.
Yeah, nutrition's one of them. Like you sit there and go, oh, you guys are health and fitness coaches, and say
you have to say that.
So much research backing that, especially the exercise portion, getting to the gym. So yes, you feel a lot better, and it can improve mental health by just.
And it doesn't have to be drastic. It could be 2 or 3 times a week that you're just lifting some weights or going to a group class. But I know some people, I have the question of like, I'm feeling so down, like how do I get to the gym? I have so much anxiety. And it's just exposure. Exposure therapy is a thing, and it's real. Like, and don't think that we don't go through moments where we're feeling anxious going into the gym, because I definitely have moments where I feel anxious going into the gym. But you just do it because you need to do it, and you need to think, why the fuck am I doing this in the first place? Is it because I want to look a certain way, or is it because I want to feel a certain way? Make it mean something to you, and that way you'll actually get somewhere. But you know, it doesn't need to be drastic. It could be going for a walk on a daily basis. That is a huge one for mental health. Getting to sleep at a good time instead of staying up until like 1 or 2 in the morning, which I did for so many years. And I blamed it on insomnia, but I was just like, I just had no structure with my day, and I didn't know how important sleep was. And I allowed myself to not make a routine around it.
Yeah, structure is really important.
Yeah, structure. Everyone loves structure.
Yeah.
And the last one for us today...
It's funny because we listened to that in the podcast about happiness, and it said that like we all want to be free. Like the goal for everyone's want to be free, but actually humans need structure. They need
but there is a thing that structure creates freedom. Yeah. And probably you've recognized this, definitely, coming from you getting up at 4 o'clock to work in the morning, and you had so much structure around work, right? Yeah. And then you went to this job that you do now. How out of sorts did you feel for quite a long time because you didn't have a certain time to get to work?
Yeah, I'm like, am I going to train in the morning? Am I going to train at midday? Am I going to train at night? I don't know. But then it did. I was winging it for a while, and that's what I tell my clients.
And it felt chaotic.
It did.
Yeah.
You know, I need structure. It's like, and then obviously with work and growing a business, you need that structure. So you start time setting. It's like, whoa, when am I training? That's when I'm training. So then I've got these hours around that. When does Luna go to daycare? Who's doing that? We start laying that out. It's like, right, you need to get this done by then. That's from this time to this time. I'm going to be focused on that. And straight away, that day goes pretty quick because you're so structured. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing or what I'm meant to be doing during these times.
And then you also
and then when people ask you, like, hey, can you do a call? There's Steph's like, so-and-so wants to do a call. When are you free? I'm like, I know exactly. I'm like, I can only fit Jason in between these hours.
But structure creates freedom in the fact that, like, you know that after 4 p.m. or whatever, that's your time to do whatever you want. So you can have that freedom. It's like with me in the afternoons, I get Luna, and then I know that I'm not working. We just go do whatever we want for the afternoon. So, like, don't think that structure is like this bad thing. Structure is really good, and it creates that freedom that you know exactly what you're doing and when you're doing it, and that's good for your head. Yeah. The last one was creating habits. And we've touched on this a little bit throughout this. And a lot of people rely on motivation to stay true to their habits and the things that they're doing. But in reality, discipline creates that. And we need to always rely on discipline. I don't know how many times I've said this week. And sometimes I get frustrated because I'm like, I fucking have said this 6 times today already. But I'm happy to say it over and over again until it hits for someone. We never rely on motivation to get anything done. If you're relying on motivation, you're never going to get shit done. And
That fleeting feeling.
It's a very fleeting feeling. You rely on your discipline of, I said that I would do this, therefore I'm going to do this. And then I encourage you to do that and see how good you feel after you have actually accomplished that.
Creating habits, yep. Writing it down. Again, this is how we create structure. Write it down. There's Monday. And again, with them habits that you're trying to create, don't be like...
Over-ambitious.
Yeah, that's the word. That's the word I was looking for. Over-ambitious. Start small, because that's how they're going to be more effective, and then you'll grow that. So write it down. I'm going to achieve this on Monday. And then it's like, okay, that was really good. Tuesday, what am I going to do? I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that again. Then the next week, okay, I'm going to maybe bring this in. This is this other part of the habit, another habit that's working towards a goal that I'm trying to achieve. So once we start ticking them boxes, that feeling of accomplishment, which we've spoken about so much already on this podcast, you'll be like giving yourself a pat on the back, like, oh, I feel good. I've done really well last week. Look what I achieved.
And I think people...
And then we continue them. Habits, what they say, it takes...
Is it a lot longer? It's like 60
days in 2
Days,
months?
yeah.
Oh, you know,
It's a
I
lot
used to
longer
know
than
that.
people-
It was a lot
it
longer
was-
than what people think.
People thought it was 21 days, I think, but that is no longer the case. It's actually a lot longer. But one thing I want to say to end this is, like, I think a lot of people look at people that are successful in whatever field, and they think that they must have this long checklist of things to do in the day, in terms of they get up, they do anal douching and sunshine and whatever it is. And in reality, I have 3 things that I do on a daily basis, and that is it, because then that allows me to have flexibility with my day, so I don't feel like super restricted and super confined. I walk on a daily basis. I eat good quality food, whether I'm tracking or not tracking, and I train at least.
Track?
Yeah, I'm just saying this for people that don't track. And I train at least 3 times a week. I always get my 4 sessions in. No, but the non-negotiable for me is the 3. So if shit goes sideways, like...
Probably forgetting work.
Yeah. No, obviously that happens. But like,
well, you said that.
My 3, like, non-negotiable. Yeah, outside of work, yeah. Like, yeah, look, I'll add 4 in and do work.
Yeah, obviously, again, you'll prioritise. With work, there's so much to do. Jordan, how much do you always have to do? You look at your plate and it's like, oh man, I've got to get all this done. And it's like, all right, that's not going to happen. So what am I doing Monday? What is the most priority right now to keep the business moving forward?
Yeah.
So that's always going to be priority. And then outside that, my non-negotiables as well. It's either cardio or steps, because I've got to get that. My training session, whether or not that happens at the right time of day, as long as it gets done. Yeah. And then obviously my work and clients check-ins have to be done. That's non-negotiable. There's so many other parts of the business.
There is definitely 4. You have work, but that's like a no-brainer. You have to do work. You can't just not do it. But I think a lot of people go like, I'm going to add, hydration. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add this, and then you have this like overwhelming list of things. So if you're struggling,
hydration's is obviously important. That's a given.
That comes in.
Whether or not your hydration is optimal, we can work on that. But everyone should be drinking water.
So don't stress yourself out about trying to do 1,000 things. Yeah. So for those people that are struggling to get out of a rut, maybe struggling to move forward, choose just 2 or 3 things to do, and then allow the satisfaction of meeting those things drive more in the future. But like, just start small and gain momentum. Yeah. That's us for today, guys.
That's our opinion anyway. There's probably way better ones out there, but a lot of the time...
No, I think we've been doing this long enough, and we've been successful in whatever we choose to do.
I'm not an expert on psychology and how the mind works. I just know how my mind works and the games it tries to play.
So that is a psychology lesson from people that don't actually know psychology, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's our perspective.
Our perspective.
Of what we've experienced.
Thank you guys for joining us. Please share and like and comment. And we should be in our house next podcast. Next podcast. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, wish us luck. We'll get there. All right. Peace.